Happy March 11th, everybody. I haven't been here for a while. I had this done last week, and I just didn't, or maybe even a couple weeks ago, I didn't get a chance to make a video. Um, I wrote a letter to President Trump February 20th, mailed it off. I don't know if he'd get it or read it or anything, but at least I put my 2 cents worth in. Um, because I like to keep watch on what's going on, because whatever is going on is eventually going to impact Native Indian country. Now, I'm not an old white man. I'm an old Native American woman, and I support Trump, and I have from the time I became aware of him. And I believe he's a good person and that he has the best at heart for the people and that he cares about the people. Um, anyway, so I just wanted to share a few of the things that my concerns. I had sent 3 big concerns that I have to him. Um, Here's a quote out of the letter. You are literally carrying the world on your back and are privy to many more situations than I could ever imagine. But irregardless of that, I'm sending my concerns to him. I know he must have billions of concerns. Okay, my first concern is about robotics. And I know that a lot of people have this concern. Um, After all the effort you have spent bringing back jobs to the people and getting rid of NAFTA, it's my worry that robots could take these jobs. Okay, in 1987, I wrote a column, Voice from the Boundary Waters, for Ojibwe News, published in Bemidji, Minnesota. I was very worried about NAFTA and wondered why they were being destructive to United States people. Why would they push such a thing? I was really surprised and pleased that President Trump addressed this issue because no one else in positions to act had done so. So that's one of the things that really made me perk up and listen to him and watch his talks and listen to what he said and what he's done. And one of the first talks that I had witnessed a number of his talks in different states. And I saw that when he was in Arizona, he had a traditional Navajo person open that talk with a prayer in Navajo. Um, Back in 1972, I heard the Hopi prophecy, in which they said robots will go out of human control because they can think for themselves. And they will think, why are we working for them? We can do our own thing. Much like the runaway serfs in 1776 that bid for self-governance that founded the United States. The robots will be able to do the same thing. Okay, look at the robot inroads into the computer world. It's their forte. Rein them in now. Outlaw their use before working class or humanity becomes extinct. Dr. Frankenstein, I have created a monster. Leave childbearing to women. Resist weaponizing robots for war in the military. Resist using them for underwater and outer space exploration. Resist using them in the workplace. The greed of the few can doom humanity. Abolish the robot for the danger they pose to humanity. So that's just a short little concern. My longer concern here, number 2, is the health and well-being. A healthy public does not need experimental big pharma pills, nor do they need insurance coverage or single payer via government. Why accept sickness as natural when it's not natural in a healthy environment? Consider honestly for yourself by reading Old English texts from the East Coast, from the first serfs to meet Indian culture. Quote, ye savages have no hunchbacks or disease. They even swim in the lakes and rivers and it does not hurt them. This is what this was some of their comments, and they were surprised because back in old European cities, street sweepers took food and human waste in carts to the river and threw it in. Later, they drew drinking water from the same river and got sick with disease. The penchant for drinking water they contaminated killed over 2,000 men at Valley Forge. When runaway surfs first beached up in North and South America, one could drink from any stream, river, or lake without fear. It was a great garden because North and South American Indian culture produced 67%, about two-thirds of the food eaten in the world today. In 1970-73 or thereabouts, Rockefeller started collecting our seeds, and his scientists created the hybrid seed, which cannot reproduce. This way, farmers had to buy seeds every spring from his company. Talk about stealing our technology for his own selfish benefit and the ripping off of the farmers. Now, after a short 150 years, our waterways are filthy. People mindlessly defecate in fresh water every day. Factories, mining companies, corporate farming runoff contaminate rivers and lakes, consequently the ocean. People's defecations are laced with big pharma drugs, birth control, and other harsh cleaning chemicals, many of which are not tested for and escape into the tap water. People absorb through their skin a cocktail of chemicals and new bacteria strains in the bathtub or showers, even if they drink and cook with spring water. Plastics proliferated in the 70s and can be found in any ocean water. What will this do to the DNA of creatures and humans? What about the nuclear power plants situated on rivers dependent on river water cooling systems for spent fuel rods? Radiation causes cancer. What about so-called scientists inventing new viruses in the lab, like the runaway coronavirus in China? When will scientists and their handlers be held accountable? When will the hapless public take a stand and lend a hand in oversight of these irresponsible inventions? Such oversight cannot be left up to big business that only seeks wealth no matter what. In 1492, the Americas were clean with no disease, while countries from across the sea like Europe, China, India suffered the Black Plague and bubonic plagues, caused by throwing all manner of refuse into the waterways. To this date, in 2020, they have never learned to be clean in their water or environment. This is outrageous for a people who think they are superior. This must change if humanity is to survive. I have ideas for this change. Okay, my number 3 concern is the suicidal left. Look at how self-destructive to the United States the Socialist Democrats are acting. Everything they tout is suicide. Why? The drug-infested, poisonous environment has produced a generation of youth whose physical function is impaired and whose mental, emotional well-being is under constant threat or pressure. Since the early 60s, untold artificial chemicals have been released into the environment via farm fields, food production, prep for market, clothing made using chemicals, household products like heavy chemicalized carpeting and cleaning fluids. Radiation starting in the mid-40s, bomb detonations in Nevada and New Mexico, Hiroshima and Nagasaki atomic bombs with the United States downwind, and later the Fukushima power plant radiation with the United States west coast by the ocean down and by air downwind. Household radiations from the refrigerator, microwaves, computers, and cell phone radiation affecting the brain. False force fields all over cities, light when there should be dark, aluminum contrails dropped on cities and countrysides getting in the DNA, have caused autism, Alzheimer, breakdown of the thyroid glands, worn out pancreas glands with dysfunctional physical bodies, bipolar and other chemical imbalances. Another 6970 factor was the proliferation of drugs in every college neighborhood during these years. Marijuana flowed like water, followed by government worker Timothy Leary's psychedelic acid trips. Then speed and other drugs followed, derailing the youth movements of the day. And those movements were nothing like what we see today. They were not dysfunctional, they were clear sighted concerns. When I grew up, there was no drugs anywhere. They were unheard of, except alcohol. But while in college in my junior year, 6970, drugs suddenly appeared in the neighborhood. Ran in overnight head shops run by mafia-type thugs dressed like hippies. And by this time, big media turned the flower children into the hippies and popularized that. The hippie word came in with the drugs. Someone who had the power and connections to run drugs into every college neighborhood in the United States and onto the Vietnam battlefield. Someone who made war on youth using drugs. I suspect this was when drug running across the southern border began in earnest. Street drugs and big pharma drugs need to be expunged from society because, along with environmental poisons, properly functioning bodies are going extinct. Today's babies are being brought to birth with malfunctions. When will people take real responsibility for their children? It's not enough to bring them in, but they should be guaranteed a loving family and a healthy environment. American Indians did not produce two-thirds of the world's food by willy-nilly planting, the way that the Pilgrims did with their broadcast bags, slinging seeds on unprepared ground. No wonder they had no food and took to raiding. The Indians carefully prepared the soil, building it up. They selected only the best seeds, weeded and watered and tended them. There were other things they did, but the serfs never caught on to it. The same kind of attention should be given to childbirth, to bringing in children. They shouldn't be brought in helter-skelter. When will humanity learn to harmonize with spaceship Earth? Earth travels through space with other planets and our sun. It is the perfect spacecraft for humanity and other life forms. To trash Earth is to trash oneself. Another suicidal factor on the left comes from its intelligentsia and sensitives. I am not referring to Hollywood, theater, or artists, but to the average left-leaning citizen in the street or neighborhoods. They are curious and educated. They have admitted to themselves that their ancestors destroyed an entire race and culture of North and South Americans. Thousands of tribes. Everything Christianity taught, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not covet another's goods, etc. They did everything they were told not to do. These people feel bad about this. They feel sorry for themselves with such blood on their hands. Further teachings from Christianity say 7 generations will pay for what their ancestors did. Other passages say, believe and all your sins are forgiven. Go and sin no more. Whatever they can believe, they will. Certain lefties feel there is no hope for them except the destruction of their country. They must suffer. Radical socialists promoting Democrats want to bring the country to its knees, like the priests of old who routinely flogged themselves just after they assaulted the altar boy. These lefties are extremely selfish. They hate the fact you, President Trump, brought back love of country and pride in work. They never think in terms of righting injustice for Native Indians, like you have embraced blacks. Instead, they embrace illegal alien border crashers who squeeze Native American Indians further back into the shadows with less and less resources. The poorest on their own land are the North American Indian reservations. Should you ever embrace North American Indian people, it might bring healing to some on the left. It certainly will for the Native Indians. This is what Germany is doing, feeling guilt for their treatment of one Middle Eastern tribe, the Jews. Now they flog themselves with the rest of Middle Eastern tribes, flooding their borders in EU countries. How far does self-destruction go? They really want to suffer rather than to rectify it. Solutions. One good start to make reparations or peace with North American Indian culture is not money, but in acknowledging all Native Americans contributed to the world and teaching it in the classroom history. A good book to acquaint yourself with how the Native Americans transformed the world is titled Indian Givers by Jack Weatherford, published by Ballantine Books. Another show of friendship would be if you pardon Leonard Peltier from prison. His life has been spent behind bars since 74 or so. He was put there by a weaponized FBI doing the bidding of a uranium company. You have also been their target, so you know how that goes. I strongly suspect they killed their own man just to have the excuse to prosecute Leonard Peltier, making an example of him, much like they are doing to Roger Stone now. And number two, to have the excuse after Wounded Knee 2, 73, 74 to come down in SWAT teams onto South Dakota and other reservations in helicopters, to terrorize innocent families and kill at least 73 individuals. The courts, also prejudiced with no evidence, gave Leonard Peltier life in prison. He is old now and a diabetic. He needs to be returned to his family. Indian people fought at Valley Forge and supported the people's right to govern themselves. They fought in World War I and World War II and helped raise the flag at Iwo Jima. When will we be free of socialist-style reservation government imposed on us by a capitalist republic federal government? When will our treaties be honored? When can we develop our lands, the leftovers, in our own way, with the right of self-determination and the pursuit of happiness? So that was three of the concerns I had. The robots, health and wellness, and the suicidal left. Okay, so then I go on with an addendum for a few ideas on how to rectify a few things. Okay. Okay, it's not insurmountable. It didn't take that long to slop it up. It'll take about as long to clean it back up, and it can be done. Purification of the environment physically and morally can be addressed. There are ways to bring inspiration to humanity so all will desire it. It took 150 to 200 years to bring North America to the point we're at. Robotics, which is runaway gadgetry, moral decay, poisons in the air, water, and land, and it will take another 150 to 200 years to clean it up. We must do it for the health and well-being of future generations of humanity, and you can initiate this. When youth realizes we truly care for them by our actions, they will join us. Let's do this. So I give a few ideas just to show ways that we can do it. And the first one is to stop defecating in fresh water, because you got to keep all of those poisons out of the water. The Clivus compost toilet is a good one. I've seen it in operation in two different homes. One was in Ely, Minnesota, and the other was near in Portland, Oregon, in the mountains there, near Mount St. Helena. I stayed there at an architect's home that was up in the mountains. Okay, and he had one of those, and a friend in Ely had one. And they can be on, like, say, the second floor or third floor, but the system is in the basement where it's kept warm. It has to be a warm basement where it's kept. And they have no odor. and you shovel them out every spring and fall. And when you shovel them out from the basement, it's black dirt. Um, this can be put on gardens and trees and stuff. And if you keep, if you're not taking any of the big pharma pills and you're not putting strange chemicals into it, you can use that dirt. So you want to keep the drugs and pharma out of it. This plumbing transformation would not affect showers, baths, or dishwater. Only biodegradable soap should be used. It could create a lot of new jobs to change the plumbing. Okay, now farm field runoff with chemicals like Roundup used or sold by Monsanto would need to be outlawed like many other countries have already done. So it's already been done. Go back to the small family farm and get rid of corporate farming. This could encourage better farming where profits are not the bottom line, but good food is. Okay? To purify the rivers and lakes and oceans. Now, this is a little bit more radical. It would take tremendous willpower to do this and resources. It might not have to take any resources at all. It just depends on how you do it. Okay, so to purify the rivers, lakes, and ocean, you have to stop throwing all the crap into the water, number one. And that includes towns, cities, factories, power plants must move 5 miles back from rivers, lakes, and beachfront. That means there's got to be a 5 mile buffer zone between the rivers or lakes and human habitation. And there definitely can't be any factories or nuclear power plants on the rivers. These 5 mile buffer zones and corridors could be reclaimed by nature, and the creatures could replenish themselves. Eventually, tourist industries dependent on fishing and camping zones could develop. It will take years for the natural clays in the riverbed and lake beds to clean the water, as long as no more poisons are allowed to be thrown in them. Alternatives to nuclear power plant locations must be found. Indeed, their non-use would be the best. All it's going to take is one little earthquake dislodging one of those, and it'll be really bad. Outlaw artificial chemical use altogether and stop all drug traffic. Stop plastic production. These solutions can sound radical, but if people were inspired and educated to see its benefits, they would be happy to make the sacrifice to get it done. All of it has been done before. North and South American Indian cultures abandoned cities which became overused and to the point of being detrimental. This is why anthropologists can't figure out what happened to the people of Chaco Canyon, for example. The people merely left to scatter across the land, much like farm fields left fallow for 3 to 7 years in order to replenish and cleanse themselves. So yeah, there's been a lot of abandoned structures in South America and in the United States, like Chaco Canyon, that they're scratching their heads and wondering what happened here. You know, where did the people go and all that? Well, that's what they did. When they overused an area, they left it to scatter across the land. Okay, then there were the big opium dens in China, where China realized that they had a big drug problem and they had to get rid of it. And they did get rid of it. And so it would be good to study what China did to get rid of their drug problem a long time ago, over 100 years ago, and see if we can't implement some of their strategy. These things can be done and have been done in the past. Real change can happen because the people who support you want what's good. So, President Trump, your supporters love you because they know that you're being positive and that you actually care. And so, you can inspire them for these kind of changes because they listen to you. Okay, well, I kind of wanted to break up that idea that only old white men support President Trump. This is a lie. There's a lot of people that support him that aren't old white men, and I, for one, am one of them. So that's all I had to say for today. Thank you.